The Armada arrived in silence. Thousands of warships slid out of hyperspace around a dead star, their hulls shining, their weapons charged, their formation perfect. This sector had been marked as forgotten. No trade routes, no colonies, no value. It was chosen for one reason only: to remind the galaxy who controlled the stars. The alien commanders expected nothing. Then the sensors spoke. A single contact appeared near the dying star. One ship. Old. Small. Scarred. At first, no one believed the reading. Confirm, the fleet commander ordered. The scan repeated. Same result. A lone vessel drifted between the Armada and the star, its hull dark, its engines barely glowing. The ship carried no escort, no drones, no visible defense grid. Its silhouette was crude compared to modern designs. Blocky, heavy, almost ugly. Laughter spread across command channels. A relic, one officer said. That can't be active. The ship's transponder finally resolved. The translation AI struggled, then locked. Origin, Earth classification, military vessel status, active. The laughter grew louder. Earth. The name meant almost nothing anymore. A minor species from an old age. A civilization that burned bright and then faded from the galactic stage centuries ago. Their worlds still existed, yes, but they were quiet, inward, irrelevant. And the ship? It looked like it belonged in a museum. The fleet commander leaned back, amused. Open a public channel. The order went out. A wideband broadcast filled the space. This is Admiral Karath of the Unified Armada, the commander said calmly. Unidentified human vessel. You are trespassing in restricted space. Power down and prepare for inspection. No response. The human ship did not alter course. It did not flee. It did not signal distress. It turned. Slowly. Deliberately. Its bow rotated until it faced the heart of the Armada. Some of the laughter faded. Perhaps it is unmanned, an officer suggested. A drifting wreck. Then why is it maneuvering? Another replied. The commander frowned. Run a full scan. Weapons, engines, power core. I want everything. Sensors poured data into the command displays. The results caused more laughter. Outdated rail cannons. Primitive missile ports. Armor made from alloys abandoned generations ago. A power signature barely strong enough to fuel a modern freighter. This thing couldn't survive a warning volley, a weapons officer scoffed. The commander nodded. Then we will give it to you. He paused, then added, record everything. Let the galaxy see what happens when old ghosts refuse to stay dead. The Armada shifted formation. Hundreds of ships locked weapons, their targeting arrays painting the ancient human vessel with cold precision. Fire, the commander ordered. A controlled burst of energy lanced through space. Not enough to destroy, just enough to humiliate. The shot struck the human ship. Light exploded across its hull. For a moment, the sensors were blinded. When the glare faded, the human vessel was still there. Its armor was scorched. Fragments drifted away, but the ship was intact. Murmurs replaced laughter. Rescan, the commander snapped. The results returned, unchanged. No shield failure. An officer said slowly. Hull integrity stabilizing? That's impossible, another whispered. Then something else happened. Across the Armada, warning alarms erupted. Targeting systems flickered. Weapon locks dropped. Communication relays stuttered and reset. What is happening? The commander demanded. We're losing synchronization, a systems officer said, panic rising in their voice. Fire control is recalibrating itself. How? No one had an answer. The human ship's engines flared brighter now, not stronger, but steadier, like a heartbeat finally waking. Its hull markings, once dark and unreadable, began to glow faintly as internal systems came online. Symbols etched into the metal pulsed with soft white light. Ancient. Intentional. A data officer spoke up, voice tight. Admiral, archived records, just updated. That ship has an identification code. The commander turned. Read it. The officer hesitated. It's listed under veteran classification. Silence fell. That category was abolished, the commander said. Human ships don't last that long. The officer swallowed. This one did. Another alert cut through the bridge. One of our forward cruisers just lost power, a sensor tech said. Before anyone could respond, the cruiser vanished. Not exploded. Not shattered. Gone. Space folded inward where it had been. collapsing for a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. Debris did not remain. There was nothing. Shock rippled through the armada. That weapon signature, the weapons officer whispered. It bypassed shields. It didn't even target the hull. It targeted the ship itself. The commander stared at the display. The human vessel had not moved closer. It had not fired again. It simply waited. A message suddenly appeared on every command screen, overriding all channels. No encryption. No symbols. Just words. Plain. Humans. Engagement authorized. The commander felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. Pull back, he ordered. All ships, defensive formation. Identify that weapon. Before the order could fully propagate, the human ship moved. It did not rush. It advanced. Slowly. Confidently. Each movement was precise, as if it had rehearsed this moment long ago. As if this was familiar ground. Another ship disappeared. Then another. The armada opened fire in panic. Beams and missiles filled space, striking the human vessel again and again. It took the hits. Armor deformed, but did not fail. Systems adapted in real time, rerouting power, compensating, learning. This ship isn't reacting, an officer said in disbelief. It's predicting us. The commander clenched his fists. What is that thing? A final message appeared, shorter this time. This ship has fought worse. The human vessel's weapons began to charge. And for the first time since the armada arrived, the galaxy went quiet, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. The armada had never known hesitation. It was built on certainty, on numbers, on firepower, on the simple truth that nothing survived being surrounded by thousands of warships. Yet now, as the ancient human vessel advanced through the storm of weapons, hesitation crept into every command deck. The veteran warship did not dodge. It did not weave or hide behind countermeasures. It simply endured. Energy washed over its hull in blinding waves. Explosions tore chunks of metal free. Fires burned along its surface, venting atmosphere into space that no crew had breathed in centuries. And still, the ship moved forward. Inside the unified armada's flagship, alarms screamed without pause. Damage reports? Admiral Karath demanded. A sensor officer stared at his display, shaking his head slowly. Our weapons are registering impact. Confirmed hits. But the ship's core systems are adjusting. It's as if the damage is being expected. Expected? Karath snapped. Yes, Admiral. Like the ship was designed to keep fighting after losing half its body. The Admiral felt a chill crawl along his spine. Bring up historical data, he ordered. Everything on human military doctrine. Wars, ship classes, anything. The data officer worked frantically. Old files opened, dusty, fragmented, half-forgotten by most modern databases. Humans favored redundancy, the officer said. Extreme redundancy. Multiple backup systems for everything. They assumed failure was guaranteed. Assumed? Karath asked. They planned for it. The officer replied quietly. Their ships were built to be broken and still function. On the main display, the human vessel fired again. Another ship vanished. Then another. This time the effect rippled outward, localized space distortion tearing apart formation cohesion. Navigation systems failed across an entire wing. Ships drifted, collided, or spun helplessly as their controls went dead. Panic spread like fire. Admiral, we're losing command integrity, an officer shouted. They're not jamming us. It's something else, some kind of interference at the physics level. Karath slammed a clawed hand onto the console. That's not possible. It is, the officer replied. And it's getting worse. The human ship transmitted again. No threat. No explanation. Just data. The message injected itself into every archive the armada carried. Military histories, academic records, even civilian databases aboard support vessels. Old war footage began playing on screens without permission. Human fleets fighting enemies far larger than themselves. Human ships burning, breaking, ramming. Crews refusing surrender. Final orders given calmly while death closed in. The title repeated across every file. Veteran protocols. Last war authorization. What is it doing? Someone whispered. It's reminding us, the data officer said. It's showing us who they were. The human ship surged forward again, engines flaring brighter now. Not more powerful, just more alive. Like an old warrior stretching muscles that had not moved in too long. A squadron of elite interceptors broke formation, racing toward it in a desperate attempt to flank. They never reached the firing range. Space bent. The interceptors tore themselves apart as their own momentum betrayed them, crushed by forces they could not see or understand. Silence followed. The Armada was no longer laughing. Karath opened a secure channel to the Inner Command Council. His voice was controlled, but strained. "This is not a relic," he said. "This is a weapon. A single ship cannot," one counselor began. "It already has," Karath cut in. "And it's still holding back." That was the truth no one wanted to say. The human vessel had not unleashed everything it could. It was measuring, learning. Across its hull, panels shifted. Sections long thought destroyed slid aside, revealing weapon mounts buried deep beneath layers of armor. Systems that had been silent for centuries came fully online. Inside the ship's core, ancient processors synchronized. Combat experience flowed through them. Not simulated, not theoretical, but real. Recorded decisions made under fire. Sacrifices chosen when no good options remained. This ship remembered every battle it had survived. And it remembered why. The Armada fired again, this time without restraint. The sky burned. For a moment, the human vessel vanished inside a storm of energy so intense it warped sensor readings. When the light cleared, the ship emerged, damaged, burning, but unstoppable. Then it spoke again. "You have entered a human defense zone. Retreat is advised." The message echoed across every channel, translated instantly into hundreds of languages. Karath stared at the words. "A defense zone," he said quietly. "There is nothing here." The data officer's eyes widened. "Admiral, long-range scans just updated." A star map expanded on the display. Human space, vast, quiet, underestimated, surrounded the sector. Not active fleets. Not colonies. Markers. Lines. Boundaries drawn long ago and ignored because no one believed they mattered. This sector, the officer said, voice shaking, was designated as a forward buffer. A warning zone. A warning for what? Karath asked. Before the officer could answer, the human ship charged its main weapon. Energy levels spiked beyond anything the Armada had recorded before. Multiple power sources came online, some not even recognized by modern science. The veteran warship angled itself directly toward the flagship, toward Karath. The admiral felt the full weight of his mistake. This fleet was never the target, he realized aloud. An officer looked at him in horror. Then what is? Karath swallowed. We are the message. The human ship fired. And this time, the stars themselves seemed to recoil. The flagship shook as reality bent around it. Admiral Karath was thrown against his command throne as the human weapon discharged. Not as a beam, not as an explosion, but as a collapse. Space in front of the flagship folded inward like paper crushed by an unseen fist. Console screamed. Gravity failed. For a breathless second, the flagship existed in two places at once. Then the effect stopped. The flagship still lived. Barely. Hull sections were gone, sliced clean as if removed by design. Entire decks vented into space. Hundreds of ships behind it were not so lucky. Where the human weapon had passed, there was nothing. No debris, no radiation cloud, no wreckage. Just absence. Karath struggled to his feet, claws digging into the deck. Status, he roared. Silence answered him, then broken voices. Primary hull breach. Decks 14 through 23 lost. Fleet strength reduced by 12%. No. Update. 18%. Navigation grid failure spreading. We can't hold formation. Karath stared at the tactical display. The Armada's perfect geometry was gone. Ships drifted out of alignment. Some collided. Others spun helplessly, engines dead, systems frozen. And at the center of it all, the human warship advanced. It was closer now. Much closer. Its hull burned. Armor plates hung loose. Entire sections glowed red-hot, exposed to vacuum. Any modern ship would have been crippled. This one did not slow. The human vessel rotated slightly, presenting its broadside, not to defend, but to threaten. New weapon ports opened along its flank, ports no scan had detected before. Hidden layers, built beneath scars from older wars. Admiral, a sensor officer whispered. I think it's letting us see them. What? Karath snapped. The weapons, the officer said. They were concealed. Now they're not. It's displaying them. A realization hit Karath with sickening clarity. It wants us to understand, he said. Before it finishes this. Another transmission flooded the command deck. This one was longer. Humans. Clear. This vessel is a veteran of the Quiet War. It has outlived its enemies. It has outlived its makers. The word struck harder than any weapon. The Quiet War? An officer asked. That conflict is classified as a myth. The data officer shook his head violently. It wasn't a myth. It was erased. Records suppressed across dozens of civilizations. By whom? Karath asked. The officer looked up, eyes hollow. By us. By the galactic order that came after. Karath felt a cold spread through his core. The human ship fired again, but not at the flagship. It targeted the Armada's command relays. One by one, the great coordination nodes vanished. The fleet's shared targeting collapsed. Each ship was suddenly alone, blind, deaf, unable to receive orders beyond short range. Chaos erupted. Ships broke and ran. Others fired wildly. Some tried to surrender, flooding space with open-channel pleas. The human vessel ignored them all. It moved with purpose, with memory. Inside its core, ancient systems adjusted, comparing present enemies to patterns learned long ago. Every maneuver, every shot, every counter was refined by experience paid for in blood centuries past. This ship had been outnumbered before. This ship had stood alone before. The Armada launched a final desperate tactic. Mass drone swarms. Millions of autonomous weapons meant to overwhelm any defense through sheer volume. The drones surged forward like a living storm. For the first time, the human ship slowed. Panels across its hull slid open. Not weapons, emitters. Space around the ship darkened. Then the sound vanished. Not silence, absence. The drones entered the field and simply stopped. Their systems shut down in perfect unison, frozen mid-flight. Momentum carried them forward, but without guidance they collided, shattered, and drifted uselessly. What is that field? Someone whispered. Karath answered without thinking. A war deterrent. He realized it even as he spoke. This ship isn't built to conquer, he said. It's built to end fights before they start. Another message appeared. You have ignored every warning. Now you will be remembered. The veteran warship accelerated. It plunged directly into the densest cluster of enemy ships. Weapons fired at point-blank range. Capital ships died in seconds. Shields failed. Hulls collapsed inward. Crews never had time to scream. The human ship took hit after hit in return. Entire weapon arrays were destroyed. One engine went dark. Fires spread across its spine. Still it fought. It rammed one battleship head-on, crushing it beneath reinforced armor meant for collisions at relativistic speeds. It tore through another with directed gravity pulses that ripped internal structures apart. This is suicide, an officer gasped. Even it can't survive this. Karath watched the human vessel burn and understood. No, he said softly. This is duty. Long-range sensors screamed. Admiral. Massive energy spike. Deep inside the Armada. A new symbol appeared on the display. The superweapon. The fleet's final answer. A system killer designed not to win battles, but to erase regions of space entirely. It required time to charge, time they no longer had. The weapon is activating, the officer shouted. If it fires here, it will kill everything, Karath finished. Us included. The human ship detected it instantly. It changed course. Not away. Toward the heart of the Armada. Toward the superweapon. Karath felt something twist inside him. It knows, he whispered. It knows what we're about to do. The veteran warship transmitted one last message before accelerating beyond safe limits. Humanity chose disappearance so others could live. Do not force us to choose again. The ship's remaining engines flared white-hot. Hull integrity alarms, human alarms, ancient and calm, began cascading through its systems. Internal logs unlocked. Final protocols armed. The human vessel aimed itself like a spear, straight at the superweapon's core. Karath stared at the display, breath caught in his throat. Stop the charge, he screamed into the fleet-wide channel. Abort the weapon. We surrender. We. The transmission cut out. Power surged. The superweapon reached critical mass, and the human warship crossed the point of no return. As it did, something unexpected happened. Across the galaxy, far beyond the battlefield, old sensors stirred. Long silent listening posts woke me up. Human beacons that had not transmitted in centuries flickered to life. Earth heard the call. The veteran warship plunged into the light, and space began to tear itself apart. The moment the human warship crossed into the superweapons charge field, every law the Armada trusted began to fail. Space screamed, not as sound, but as pressure, an invisible force crushing hulls, twisting sensor data into nonsense. The superweapons core glowed brighter than the dead star behind it, pulling energy from half the fleet to finish its charge. The veteran warship did not slow. Its engines burned past redline, then past anything modern science defined as possible. Ancient stabilizers failed one by one. Entire sections of the ship tore free, spinning away like sacrificed limbs. Inside the human vessel, no voices cried out. There were no living crew left to panic. Only systems. Only memory. Only purpose. Deep in its core, a final sequence unlocked. One that had never been used. Not in training. Not in war. It had been written for an ending no one wanted to see. Last stand directive, confirmed. The ship's internal architecture shifted. Power rerouted away from weapons and shields and into something far older, buried beneath layers of armor and secrecy. The Armada finally understood. This isn't an attack, one officer said, voice breaking. It's a collision strategy. Karatha's eyes widened. It's going to detonate inside the field. No, the data officer whispered. I'm going to rewrite it. The superweapon fired. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then reality collapsed inward. The energy meant to erase the sector slammed into the human warship at point-blank range. Space folded violently, trying to tear everything apart at once. The veteran ship did not resist. It accepted the impact. Its core flared, not with explosive force, but with control. Ancient human engineering did not seek dominance over energy. It sought direction. The superweapon's output bent, not outward, inward. The Armada's sensors went blind as the blast was swallowed, compressed, and forced to collapse into itself. The energy screamed as it was denied release. Then it detonated, but not like a weapon, like a star being strangled. A sphere of absolute destruction formed at the heart of the Armada. Perfect, contained, merciless. Ships caught inside it vanished instantly, reduced beyond atoms. Those on the edge were crushed by tidal forces, torn apart, and flung into the void. The flagship barely escaped the outer shockwave. Karath watched the Armada die. Thousands of ships, generations of power, centuries of arrogance, gone in moments. At the center of it all was the human warship, or what remained of it. The sphere collapsed, releasing a final pulse that swept the battlefield clean. When sensors came back online, space was empty. No Armada, no superweapon, no human ship, only drifting debris and fading radiation. Silence ruled. For a long time, no one spoke. Is it over? Someone finally asked. Karath stared at the empty center of the display. His voice was hoarse. Scan for human signatures. The answer came quickly. Negative. No vessel. No power source. Nothing. A heavy weight settled over the bridge. The enemy was gone. But so was the ship that had stopped them. Karath closed his eyes. We forced it, he said quietly. We forced it to choose. As if in answer, a new alert chimed, soft, almost hesitant. Admiral, the sensor officer said. We're receiving a transmission. From where? Karath demanded. The officer swallowed. From everywhere. The signal was weak, scattered across multiple frequencies, bouncing off stars and debris alike. It wasn't a message meant for the Armada. It was meant for the galaxy. The display filled with human text, older than anything most databases still carried. This is a final record. Images followed. Not propaganda. Not threats. Memories. Human worlds burning under alien bombardment. Civilian ships shielding refugee convoys. Human fleets standing alone against coalitions that feared them. Treaties broken. Promises forgotten. Then the final decision. Human leaders choose withdrawal instead of conquest. Choosing silence instead of endless war. Leaving sentinels behind. Not to rule, but to watch. Veteran warships placed like sleeping giants along forgotten borders. Not many. Just enough. The message continued. We did not vanish because we were weak. We vanished because the galaxy was not ready. Karath felt something crack inside him. Around the bridge, hardened officers stared in stunned silence. Another line appeared. This vessel was never meant to return. Its task is complete. The signal began to fade. Wait, Karath whispered. Wait. One last fragment came through, barely readable. Do not test the others. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, similar signals appeared, echoes of the same message intercepted by governments, councils, and military commands that had believed humanity irrelevant. Fear spread faster than any fleet ever had. Back in the ruined sector, Karath stared at the emptiness where the human ship had sacrificed itself. It erased an armada, he said softly. And there was only one. An officer looked at him. Admiral, what do we do now? Karath straightened slowly. We remember, he said. And we warn everyone else. Long-range sensors flickered again. A new contact appeared. Not a fleet. A signal. Humans. Clear. Active. Origin point. Sol system. The words that followed were simple. Message received. Do not proceed further. Karath exhaled shakily. The galaxy had mocked a veteran warship. Now it understood what that mistake had cost. And somewhere, far beyond sight, humanity was no longer silent. The galaxy did not react all at once. At first, there was denial. The unified armada's last surviving ships limped away from the ruined sector, carrying fragmented sensor data and terrified crews. Their reports conflicted. Some spoke of impossible weapons. Others claimed a natural anomaly. A few whispered about ghosts. But the data could not be erased. An entire armada, one of the largest ever assembled, had vanished. Not defeated. Erased. Across the core worlds, emergency councils were called. Holographic chambers filled with leaders who had not faced real fear in generations. Ancient rivalries were set aside as one question dominated every discussion. How? The recordings played again and again. A single human ship. Old. Scarred. Alone. The words veteran classification appeared on screen, and the room always went quiet. We cataloged humanity as dormant, one counselor said. Low expansion. Minimal military presence. Another replied, voice tight. We cataloged them as irrelevant. Silence followed. In hidden archives, long-sealed files unlocked themselves. Not through hacking, but through permission codes embedded centuries ago. Human codes. Records that should not have existed flooded galactic networks. Wars no one remembered fighting. Coalitions formed in fear of human endurance. Battles where humanity refused surrender even when outnumbered 10-1. And always the same conclusion. Humanity did not lose wars. Humanity ended them. On a remote listening post near the galactic rim, an ancient human beacon completed its activation cycle. It had waited centuries for a specific signal pattern. It had just received it. Deep within the beacon, systems long thought dead began to hum. Old protocols lit up. Distress markers were acknowledged. The beacon did not transmit loudly. It whispered, and others listened. Back in the devastated sector, Admiral Karath remained aboard his damaged flagship. Repairs were slow. Power was limited. Every officer moved with the quiet shock of survivors who knew they should not exist. Karath stood alone on the observation deck, staring at the scar left in space by the superweapon's collapse. Nothing grew there. Sensors showed instability that would last centuries. A wound in reality. All because we mocked one ship, he said softly. A senior officer approached. Admiral, long-range scans are picking up movement. Karath turned. Another human fleet? No, the officer said. Not yet. A projection appeared. Dozens of distant signals, faint but unmistakable. Human-made. Old as the veteran warship, spread across forgotten regions of space. Sleeping sentinels. There were more, Karath whispered. Yes, the officer replied. And, Admiral, some of them are waking up. Fear settled deep in Karath's chest. Not panic, not terror. Respect. In the galactic capital world, the high assembly chamber overflowed. Species that had once commanded empires now sat in uneasy silence. A surviving recording from the battlefield played, human text over burning stars. Do not test the others. They are threatening us, one delegate hissed. No, another answered quietly. They are warning us. Debate erupted. Some demanded preemptive action. Others called for sanctions, borders, containment. But a smaller group, older, wiser, said nothing. They had read the full archives. They knew the truth. Humanity did not strike first. Humanity struck last. Far from the core, On a quiet, blue world called Earth, no celebrations erupted. No speeches were given. No fleets launched in triumph. A single room deep beneath the planet's surface received the veteran warship's final data burst. Men and women in simple uniforms stood as the message finished playing. No one spoke for a long moment. An older commander finally broke the silence. "It held," she said. "Long enough." Another nodded. "It always would." A younger officer asked, voice unsure, "What now?" The commander looked at the star map before them. Human markers glowed softly. Defensive lines, not invasion routes. "Now," she said. "Now we make sure the galaxy understands that it almost woke up." A new order was issued. Not to attack, not to advance. To be seen. Deep space sensors across the galaxy began detecting something unprecedented. Human ships. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just arriving. One by one. Modern vessels this time. Sleek, controlled, quiet. They did not cross borders. They stopped at the edges. They powered down weapons and opened channels. The message was always the same. Calm. Clear. Humans. We are here to observe. Panic spread faster than light. Old powers scrambled fleets, only to halt them at the last moment. No one wanted to be the next example. No one wanted to learn what a modern human warship could do. Back in the ruined sector, Karath received a final transmission. Direct. Encrypted. Humans. He hesitated, then accepted. A human face appeared on the screen. Not armored. Not hostile. Tired, but steady. "You survived," the human said. Karath inclined his head. "Because your ship chose sacrifice." "Yes," the human replied. "That's what veterans do." A pause. "Tell your leaders," the human continued, "that the quiet war stays quiet, if they let it." "And if they don't?" Karath asked. The human expression did not change. "Then next time," they said, "we won't send a relic." The channel closed. Karath stood alone again, staring at the stars. The galaxy had mocked Earth's veteran warship. Now it understood the truth too late. That ship was never meant to win. It was meant to warn. And somewhere beyond the dark, humanity was watching to see if the galaxy had finally learned how to listen. The galaxy changed its behavior before it changed its laws. Trade routes shifted quietly. Fleets that once patrolled aggressively pulled back to defensive orbits. Border disputes froze mid-argument, not because peace had been achieved, but because no one wanted to escalate anything anymore. The phrase human defense zone entered common use. No one was entirely sure where those zones began or ended. That uncertainty was the point. In the weeks that followed the Armada's destruction, dozens of expeditions were quietly canceled. Exploratory fleets recalled themselves mid-jump. Colonial claims were temporarily postponed. Even the most arrogant empires began reviewing old archives they had not touched in centuries. What they found unsettled them. Humanity's absence had never meant weakness. It meant patience. On a neutral world far from Sol, an emergency summit convened under the strictest secrecy. No public records. No broadcasts. Just representatives who understood that history had shifted under their feet. The surviving admirals spoke first. They described the veteran warship again and again. Its scars, its refusal to retreat, the way it fought as if the battle had already been decided long ago. "It did not improvise," one admiral said. "It was executed." Another added, "It behaved like an answer, not a question." The room grew quiet. A scholar of ancient conflicts finally spoke. "Human military doctrine has always been misunderstood. We assumed aggression, but what we are seeing is resolution." "What does that mean?" a delegate demanded. "It means," the scholar said slowly, "that when humans act, they have already accepted the cost." Fear crept through the chamber. Across the galaxy, the human ships that had appeared at borders remained still. They did not broadcast propaganda. They did not threaten. They did not move closer. They simply existed. Watching, listening, recording. Their presence alone forced change. Pirate activity vanished in regions near human patrols. Slavery networks collapsed overnight when buyers refused to risk attention. Even internal conflicts cooled as leaders realized how fragile their position truly was. Humanity had not fired a shot, and yet the galaxy behaved as if it had a blade at its throat. On Earth, none of this was celebrated. The veteran warship's name was never spoken publicly. There were no monuments, no speeches, no banners raised in triumph. Its final act was recorded, archived, and sealed. It joined a long list of ships that had done their duty and vanished. In a quiet briefing room beneath the planet's surface, a council of human commanders reviewed incoming data. Foreign military buildup has decreased by 38%, one officer reported. Several empires have initiated internal demilitarization talks. Another added, they're afraid to move. A commander folded her hands. Good. A younger officer hesitated. What if they're just waiting? They always are, she replied. So are we. Beyond the charts and projections, a larger question hung unspoken. Had the veteran warship been the last line of defense? Or the first reminder? That answer arrived sooner than expected. At the far edge of mapped space, a non-aligned civilization made a mistake. They were small, ambitious, and desperate. Their world was resource-poor. Their leaders believed the stories of human restraint meant safety, that the warnings were symbolic. They launched a raid, not against Earth, against a neutral system under human observation. The attack was swift and brutal. Civilian stations burned. Refugees fled. Calls for aid echoed into the void. Human sensors registered the violence immediately. In Seoul, the response was not debated. Orders moved through the chain in silence. A single modern human warship altered course. It arrived without spectacle. The raiders never saw it coming. Their weapons shut down mid-volley. Their ships froze in space. Every system locked by invisible hands. No shots were fired. No explosions followed. A message appeared on every screen. This action violates human protective observation. Cease hostilities immediately. The attackers tried to flee. They could not. Moments later, human enforcement vessels arrived, not to destroy, but to detain. Crews were boarded. Survivors treated. Prisoners secured. The entire engagement ended without a single death. Across the galaxy, the footage spread faster than fear ever had. The reaction was immediate. This is worse, one strategist said. They can stop us without killing us. Another whispered, which means they can choose when to kill. The lesson was clear. The veteran warship had shown what happened when humanity was forced to sacrifice. The modern fleet showed what happened when humanity chose restraint. Both were terrifying. Admiral Karath watched the recordings from his flagship, still undergoing repairs. His once proud uniform felt heavier now, weighed down by memory. They didn't need to destroy them, he said quietly. A human liaison officer standing beside him nodded. No. Then why show us the veteran ship at all? Karath asked. The human met his gaze. Because sometimes, they said, peace only holds if everyone remembers the cost of breaking it. Karath exhaled slowly. The galaxy had learned many lessons over its long history. This one would not be forgotten. In the months that followed, treaties were rewritten, border laws redrawn. Words like expansion and dominion quietly disappeared from official language. A new term replaced them. Coexistence under observation. Humanity did not claim territory. They claimed responsibility. And that frightened the galaxy more than conquest ever could. Somewhere in deep space, near another forgotten star, a dormant beacon completed its diagnostic cycle. It had not been activated by threat, but by confirmation. The quiet war remained quiet. For now, the beacon powered down again, satisfied. Back on Earth, a final line was added to the veteran warship's sealed record. Status: mission complete. Outcome: galaxy stabilized. Assessment: sacrifice justified. The file is closed. The lights dimmed. And humanity returned to watching the stars. Not with hunger, not with fear, but with the calm certainty of those who had already paid the price once, and would not hesitate to do so again if forced. Because the galaxy no longer mocked Earth's veteran warship. I remembered it. And that memory kept the peace. The peace did not break loudly. It cracked quietly, in places no one was watching closely enough. Years passed. Borders held. Fleets stayed back. Human observers remained still, patient, almost invisible. To many younger civilizations, the stories of the veteran warship began to sound exaggerated. Old fear clinging to old wounds. Nothing bad had happened. And for some, that meant nothing would. On a mineral-rich world at the edge of mapped space, a regional power made a calculation. Their analysts studied human responses. They saw restraint, delays, careful language, no rapid escalation, no mass mobilization. These are not conquerors, their leader concluded. They are caretakers, and caretakers hesitate. They prepared a fleet, not to invade human space, but to pressure it. A show of strength. The fleet entered a quiet corridor near a human observation line and began large-scale weapons tests. Stars flared as targets were obliterated. Signals were sent intentionally close to human patrol ranges. The message was simple: we are not afraid. Human sensors registered the activity instantly. On Earth, the data reached the same quiet rooms, the same calm faces. This is provocation, a junior officer said, but not direct violence. A commander nodded. They want a reaction. What do we give them? The officer asked. The commander studied the map for a long moment. Perspective, she said. The human response was subtle. No fleets surged forward. No weapons powered up. Instead, the human observation ships along the corridor powered down. All of them. One by one, their signatures faded from sensors. To the regional powers fleet, it looked like withdrawal. Celebration erupted across their command decks. They blinked. An admiral said proudly, "They don't want conflict." Cheers spread. Then the stars changed. Light bent unnaturally around the testing zone. Long-range sensors flickered, recalibrated, then reported impossible readings. New objects were appearing. Not ships. Markers. Vast constructs unfolded from subspace. Ancient, silent, immense. They took shape slowly, deliberately, like thoughts made solid. Each marker dwarfed the largest battleship. They were not weapons platforms. They were records. Human technology, older than most living civilizations, awakening from deep concealment. Their surfaces glowed faintly as data began broadcasting outward, not at the fleet alone, but at every listening post within dozens of systems. History poured into the stars. Entire wars replayed in perfect clarity. Human cities destroyed. Fleets lost. Civilians evacuated under fire. The cost of every victory displayed without censorship. The fleet commanders tried to shut the feeds down. They could not. The markers were not transmitting on normal channels. They were imprinting information directly into space-time itself, readable by any sensor, any mind willing to look. This is psychological warfare, an officer whispered. No, their admiral replied slowly. This is testimony. Then the final sequence began. The image of the veteran warship appeared, scarred, burning, advancing alone. Its last stand replayed from every angle. Not dramatized, not glorified, just shown. The moment it crossed into the superweapons field. The moment it chose sacrifice. The fleet fell silent. Some officers turned away. Others could not. A final message appeared, human text burning softly against the stars. This is the cost of making US choose. The markers powered down and vanished. No explosion, no threat, just absence. The human observation ships returned moments later, resuming their previous positions as if nothing had happened. The testing fleet withdrew within the hour. No announcements were made, no apologies issued, but the message had been received. Across the galaxy, the lesson spread. Humanity did not escalate step by step. Humanity escalated by revealing the truth. Back on Earth, the commanders watched the corridor stabilize again. They didn't fire, the junior officer said quietly. No, the commander replied. They remembered. Time passed again, this time longer. Generations grew up under the quiet shadow of human observation. Trade flourished. Conflicts were resolved before becoming wars. The phrase veteran protocol entered academic study, not military planning. Humanity faded slightly from fear into respect. That was the balance they wanted. Until one final event forced the galaxy to confront the truth completely. A star went dark. Not exploded. Not collapsed. Gone. Sensors across multiple civilizations registered the disappearance simultaneously. Panic erupted. Emergency summits convened. Theories flew. Natural anomaly, unknown weapon, cosmic accident. Human sensors already knew the answer. Something ancient had awakened. Not human. Older. Far older. The quiet war had never been the first. It had been a response. On Earth, sealed archives opened for the first time in centuries. A single phrase dominated the files. External threat class. Existential. A modern human fleet began to move. Not defensively, not hesitantly. Decisively. Across the galaxy, observers noticed the difference immediately. These ships aren't watching, one analyst whispered. They're deploying. Admiral Karath, now aged and quietly retired, received one last message from a human channel he recognized instantly. "You remember the veteran ship?" the message said. "Yes," Karoth replied. "Good," the human voice answered. "Then you understand what comes next." The channel closed. Beyond the stars, something vast stirred. And for the first time, the galaxy realized the final truth. The veteran warship had not been humanity's greatest weapon. It had been their warning shot. And now, humanity was warned. The galaxy had never seen humanity move like this. Not during the Quiet War. Not during the sacrifice of the veteran warship. Not during centuries of watchful restraint. This was different. Human fleets did not rush. They did not scatter. They aligned. Across dozens of systems, modern human warships emerged from hidden corridors and deep space anchors. Their movements were synchronized with a precision that unsettled every observer. No wasted thrust. No hesitation. Every vector chosen long before the first engine ignited. This was not a reaction. This preparation was finally revealed. The vanished star became the center of all attention. Sensors from 100 civilizations pointed toward the empty region where gravity still screamed in confusion. Whatever had removed the star had not consumed its energy. It had taken it. Human analysts had named the phenomenon long ago, in files sealed so deeply that even most human governments had forgotten them. The designation was simple: Harvester-class entity. Admiral Karoth watched the briefings from a quiet station far from the front. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from recognition. "This is what you were hiding from," he murmured. A human liaison nodded. "This is why we withdrew. This is why we placed sentinels instead of empires." "Why not tell us?" Karoth asked. The liaison met his gaze. "Because the last time the galaxy knew, it tried to use them." The harvester did not announce itself. It did not broadcast demands. It simply moved, consuming stellar mass and converting it into something no known physics could fully describe. Entire systems dimmed as it passed nearby. Civilizations panicked. Fleets mobilized out of instinct and were immediately ordered back by their own leaders. No one wanted to interfere now. The memory of the veteran warship still burned too brightly. Humanity did not ask for permission. They issued instructions. Clear lanes. Evacuation corridors. Silence on all non-essential channels. Some obeyed out of fear, others out of trust. Those who hesitated were overridden by automated human systems that had been quietly integrated into galactic infrastructure over centuries, not as control mechanisms, but as fail-safes. Humanity had not ruled the galaxy. They had prepared it. The first human fleet reached the harvester's projected path and stopped. They did not fire. They waited. The entity responded. Space warped as something vast shifted its attention. Sensors screamed as impossible geometry unfolded. The harvester was not a ship. It was a structure older than recorded time, wrapped in layers of artificial gravity and condensed matter. It regarded the human fleet. And then it spoke, not in words, in pressure. Stars trembled as the entity pushed outward, testing resistance. Lesser civilizations would have broken formation instantly. Human ships did not move. They absorbed the force through fields derived from the same principles that had powered the veteran warship's final act, but refined, stabilized, multiplied. The human fleet answered, not with weapons, with containment. A lattice of controlled gravity unfolded, invisible but absolute. The harvester's advance slowed for the first time since its awakening. Across the galaxy, watchers held their breath. "This is impossible," a strategist whispered. "They're holding it." "They're not holding it," another replied. "They're pinning it." The harvester reacted violently. Energy surged outward, tearing at the lattice. Space cracked. 2 human ships were destroyed instantly, collapsed into singularities without time for alarms. The fleet did not break. More ships slid into position, compensating without command. They had trained for this. They had always known this day would come. On Earth, the final reserve protocols are unlocked. Dormant shipyards activated. Weapons humanity had sworn never to use powered up, not out of anger, but necessity. A human commander addressed the fleet, her voice calm, steady, human. "This is not vengeance. This is not a defense. This is the containment of extinction." The order followed. Execute final barrier. The human fleet transformed. Ships interlocked fields, sacrificing mobility for stability. Power levels climbed into ranges that would have terrified earlier generations. Hulls glowed as systems strained under the load. The Harvester screamed, not in pain, but in resistance. It had not expected opposition. It had not faced humans before. The battle lasted hours, then days. Entire stars were repositioned using controlled gravitational collapse. Human ships were lost, quietly, deliberately, each loss buying seconds, minutes, stability. Human crews did not panic. They knew the price. They had inherited that knowledge from ships like the veteran warship. At the height of the struggle, when the barrier threatened to fail, a single human vessel detached from the formation, older than the others. Scarred, not a relic, but a successor. Its designation carried a familiar classification. Veteran-grade command ship. Admiral Karath felt his breath catch. Another one, he whispered. The ship advanced alone toward the Harvester's core. Not to destroy it, to anchor it. The ship deployed a weapon that was not a weapon at all, a stabilized singularity generator derived from the veteran warship's sacrifice, refined through centuries of quiet work. The singularity latched onto the Harvester's structure like a chain through reality. The entity thrashed. The human ship held. Internal alarms cascaded. Hull failure warnings filled every deck. The ship did not retreat. Its final transmission echoed across all channels, translated into every known language. We remember why we stand. We remember who we stand for. The ship collapsed inward, merging with the singularity. The Harvester was pulled with it. Space screamed one last time. Then everything went still. The Harvester vanished. The singularity stabilized. The stars returned. Across the galaxy, systems exhaled as gravity normalized. Light flowed again. Life continued. Human fleets powered down. No cheers erupted. No celebrations followed. They had done what they always did. They paid the cost. In the aftermath, the galaxy did something it had never done before. It listened. Not to threats. Not to fear. To tell the truth. Humanity did not seek dominance because dominance distracted from survival. Humanity did not expand endlessly because guardianship required restraint. Humanity had built veteran warships not as symbols of power, but as promises. Promises that when the universe tried to end everyone, someone would stand in the way. Admiral Karath transmitted one final message to Earth. The galaxy understands now, he said. Not your strength. Your purpose. The human response was simple. Good. Far from the battlefield, in a quiet archive beneath Earth, two entries were added side by side. Veteran warship, status, sacrificed veteran command ship, status, sacrificed. Beneath them, a final line. Outcome, civilization preserved. The file is closed. The stars kept shining. And the galaxy would never mock Earth's veteran warships again, because now it knew what they were truly built for. Not war, but the right to exist tomorrow.